Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and we come to the third and final part of my review of Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If? Yes, to round out Season 2, well, we have the last 3 episodes of Season 2, of course. Yes, episodes 7, 8, and 9. Yes. Yeah, I gotta say that the last 3 episodes for Season 2, well, they were some pretty good ones. Especially, like, what happened in the last episode, in episode 6, that, a hint of what was to come, further into Season 2, and the fact that Doctor Strange appeared, and that being Doctor Strange Supreme, and whom we saw in Season 1, and, well, the fact, of course, that we were going to get Agent Carter in there somewhere, again, in Season 2, and where she would end up, medieval times and such, yeah. Just the last 3 episodes, well, I enjoyed them, of course, with what they had to offer, and, of course, episode 7, most notably, where we have a character in a different path and, hanging out with someone else and, what they do with these other characters, you know what I mean? Just, yeah. And, with what goes on with Agent Carter, where she ends up, which being in 1602, and, with Captain Carter being there, and also her interactions with the Watcher is really good. Her being the only one that can interact and see the Watcher himself. And then when it comes to, say, episode 9, where, she and Strange Supreme come together, the 2 most notable characters in the world of What If, overall, the last 3 episodes for Season 2, episodes 7, 8, and 9, they did not disappoint. They were pretty good. Great way for them being the last 3 episodes, and how Season 2 itself ends with episode 9, but until I get to episode 9. Okay, so as always, get into the episodes themselves, and of course, read the description / the story, and obviously, starting with episode 7. Episode 7, What If Hela found the 10 rings? Hela, stripped off her powers and banished to Earth, comes across a source of power, the 10 rings. Yeah, so in this world, instead of Hela being imprisoned and such, and how she would come back into the events of Ragnarok, which, that was the first time we got our appearance of Hela, but at the same time, little did we know that, all these years, Odin had kept Hela prison, but until, of course, when the events of Ragnarok happened, he sadly died. Well, that's when Hela was freed from being imprisoned by Odin. Instead of that happening, in this world, Odin banishes Hela, pretty much, the same way as how he banished Thor in the first Thor film. Stripping her powers, and also, very hesitant of her bloodlust and, and then the 9 realms and such, that whole thing, and taking the hammer, which would be Thor's hammer, the minority, I'm probably mispronouncing it right. I always struggle trying to pronounce the name of that hammer. I know that Thor's next hammer being referred to as the Stormbreaker, but I'm just saying, But yeah, that's taken away from her, and he crushes it just like how she does in Ragnarok. That's really cool. And also, taking her helmet and having it be in the same way as Thor's hammer, where it makes its way to Earth and, it can't be, pulled out of the ground, that whole thing. And, so with Hela being banished to Earth, and she finds her way in medieval China. And by the way, have to acknowledge, of course, the voice cast. Cate Blanchett, rightfully so, reprises the role of Hela. Odin, because he's been voicing Odin in What If. Great voice actor Jeff Bergman. So him voicing Odin, and, because he doesn't do a bad job doing an impression of Odin, and, for that matter, Anthony Hopkins, but and Heimdall making an appearance in this, and throughout this episode, like, yeah, when we cut back to Heimdall, he's supposed to watch and locate Hela and where she is on Earth, and yeah, Heimdall, rightfully so, also being once again played by good old Idris Elba. Yeah, so Hela making her way to Earth and straight down to medieval China, where she encounters, well, Wenwu. Yeah, I'm not gonna say his first name because, again, you know me sometimes. Yeah, so she encounters Wenwu and his army, and Wenwu in this, being voiced by Theodore Shine, if I'm saying his full name right. Yeah, and because What's-Him-Face obviously not being available, well, Chin, he did a pretty good job voicing Wenwu, but yeah. Hela, when encountering Wenwu, well, she tries to show that she is powerful and that she can take down him and his army. And even when, she tries to unleash her powers, but she can't because she doesn't have the helmet. But the helmet being there, she tries to, pull it out of the ground. But, yeah, because with what Odin did, yeah, that's not happening. And, yeah, because, when Hela takes on some of Wenwu's army, well, her realizing that she's bleeding actual blood, becoming immortal, and, mortal, sorry, not immortal, mortal. However, Wenwu does spare Hela's life, and wants Hela to join him and his army, propose an alliance, and so on. Even he offered her a red dress, and she almost thought at first like maybe this was like a marriage proposal or something, but no. Even like, he was flirting with her a bit, and she was going for it, but she obviously knew, and yeah, wasn't going to fall for his trick, and well, thus, taking down Wenwu, and she tried to steal the 10 rings from him, but failed to do so. But overall, she manages to escape, and she gets help from the fun, lovable creature whom we saw in the Shang-Chi film, Morris. Yeah, Morris making an appearance in this, and, Dee Bradley, I could have sworn that Dee Bradley Baker would be in the voice cast, but oh well. Yeah, so Morris making an appearance and helping Hela guide her way to where she needs to be with the good ones, you know what I'm saying? Escaping from Wenwu and his army, and when they make their way further into, like, say, this forest, where the trees are and so on, eventually, yeah, whom, Hela finds are, who they are, and I'll remember to put their name in the text, but yeah, the leader being, Jijai, if I'm saying her name right, again, you know me sometimes, being voiced by Lauren Tom, and, well, Hela convincing her to let her join them, and, even when, Jai helps with Hela's martial arts skills, and also the mentioning of freedom from Hela. And Jaya can see, and can sense what's going through Hela, and can see through her, and so on. Yeah. Meanwhile, at one point, as I mentioned earlier, Heimdall reporting to Odin about not being able to see and locate Hela on Earth, and, well, then it would lead to, say, Odin and the Asgardian army to make their way to Earth and to confront and, I think, yeah, bring in Hela and such. Also, some of the other voice cast members, like, there was, Sean Yan, if I'm saying the name right, being voiced by Michael Hegiwara. And also, we did get a little bit of flashback of Hela as a young girl. Young Hela being voiced by Liv Zamora. And some of the additional voice cast members, like, yeah, Fred Tatasciore and Matthew Wood is one of them. But, yeah, anyways. But continuing on to speed things up some, because, yeah. The battle sequence between Hela and the Chinese, army, the warriors against Odin and the Asgardian soldiers was really cool. Even when Wenwu steps in and using the 10 rings, and even when Wenwu and Hela come together taking on Odin. Yeah, just, overall that sequence was really good, and, because, never fails, of course, to have a great fight, and especially when seeing certain characters with specific powers they have, and how their powers interact with each other when in combat, you know? Never ceases to disappoint in the world of Marvel, especially in the MCU, even if it's animation. But yeah, just overall, the fight between Hela, Wenwu, and Odin. Eventually, of course, yeah, Odin is defeated and kneels to Hela, and well, she gets the throne and command of Asgard and Odin can see through Hela some goodness and the whole thing of freedom and such, yeah. And seems like, yeah, they're all on good terms now. And the Watcher, of course, doing some narration, as always in the show. Like what he said at the beginning about, yeah, in this universe, like, yeah, Odin banishing Hela, and then at the end of this, well, what Hela would do leading Asgard, now that she has the throne and such, and to, you know, do peace and so on, and combining the forces of Asgard and Wenwu and his men to come together and to do peace and such. And even when, right towards the end of the episode, it ends off where we see them making their destination to where young Gamora is, you know, the events where Thanos, you know, invaded Gamora's home planet. Well, Hela, Wenwu, and the others, they come in to stop Thanos. Nice. That was really cool. A cool way to end off that episode. Yeah, just overall, episode 7. What if Hela found the 10 rings? And yeah, and that's another thing, to see her use the 10 rings and such, that was really cool too. Yeah, overall, episode 7 was another really good episode, and it being the third to last episode, I should say, of season 2. Yeah, great to see Cate Blanchett come back to this time voice Hela, and with what Hela is doing in What If, in this world, this variation of Hela, and the fact that Hela would find goodness in her and what she would do when she would take on the throne of Asgard, yeah. And that, you know, that also goes for Wenwu. I mean, sure, because in Shang-Chi itself, where Wenwu did redeem himself, you know, but still, for this, being quite different than, you know, how he was redeemed and so on in the Shang-Chi film. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, again, episode 7, that was another really good episode for season 2. Okay, next up, episode 8. What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? And as was teased in episode 5. Yeah, alright. So, description / the story for episode 8. Captain Carter tries to undo the anomaly that strands familiar heroes and villains in the year 1602. And I meant to say Renaissance, yeah, not medieval, Renaissance, where Captain Carter ends up at the end of episode 5, yeah, so, my bad. Anyways, so yeah, and yeah, again, as was teased at the end of episode 5, where Captain Carter would end up, and yeah, this Renaissance time and era, well, she would encounter and meet with Wanda Merlin and Sir Fury. Yes, and of course, Wanda Merlin and Sir Fury, being voiced by Samuel L. Jackson and Elizabeth Olsen, she teams up with them because of this whole thing of an independent incursion. Yeah, but also, yeah, with what goes on in this episode, well, it's a funny way that this episode starts off because Loki, who is there, and of course Loki, once again being voiced by, well, Tom Hiddleston, is performing Shakespeare, Hamlet, you know, to be or not to be. And Thor, he's booing his brother, he's playing the part of the, you know, the rowdy audience member and such. And even Hela making an appearance in this, and she's Queen, which is pretty interesting, so yeah. She is the Queen. That's weird because like I'm not seeing Cate Blanchett listed in the cast or something. I mean, surely it's her, right? Even though because we don't get that much of Queen Hela in this still. But anyways, But yeah, again, Loki performing, to be or not to be, and with a skull, and something out of nowhere happens where a tear in the sky occurs, almost pulling in Loki, but Carter, who's there, saves Loki. Then the tear starts to pull in Queen Hela. Carter tries to save her, but fails, and now the leadership is now given to Thor, now being king and such. Yeah, because King Thor Odinson, and he blames this on Carter, like, she was trying to save her, and yet, golly. But thankfully, not all of the characters turn their backs on Carter. That goes for Wanda and Fury. Not to mention that Sir Harold the Happy Hogan, whom is serving under King Thor, his new commands and such. Yeah, I mean, he is now against Carter and, will do anything to, obey King Thor to go after Carter and such. And Jon Favreau, of course, once again voicing Happy, and this time being Sir Harold the Happy Hogan. Well, of course, it's Jon Favreau, and what he brings to this variant of Hogan is pretty funny, yeah. So yeah, again, King Thor blames this on Carter. However, Carter discovers this, even Wanda and Fury do as well, about, the incursion. The incursion is occurring due to the presence of the Forerunner, yeah. And, well, Carter, wanting to do whatever it takes to save this world, this universe, where she's at, it's Renaissance and such. And then, she encounters and interacts with the Watcher, and the Watcher is giving Carter the heads up that there's no way that she could be able to save this world. But she wants to prove so to the Watcher that, yeah, she can. There can possibly be a way / hope to save this world. And then Carter finds someone whom does help her out, build a device to identify the Forerunner. And whom could it be? Well, Tony Stark. Yes, and Tony Stark once again in What If, being voiced by Mika Wingert. Yeah. And, the interactions with Tony and Peggy in this world, Renaissance, was pretty funny. And, yeah, Tony Stark, of course, being Tony Stark, no matter what universe, obviously, / world. And, yeah, Tony, doesn't give in at first, but he does, eventually he does help out, Carter. Even, assuring, say, Nick Fury that, Tony is the answer to help out with what they're dealing with and such, yeah. And that, helping to locate and identify the Forerunner. And, yeah, whom could the Forerunner be? Well, we will wait and see, and we do as the episode proceeds. But, yeah. And some of the other characters that we get in the Renaissance world, well, as mentioned, Wanda, Fury, Thor, Loki, Hela, but also Steve Rogers making an appearance, as well as Scott Lang / Ant-Man, and even in the Renaissance era, managing to have the ability to shrink himself in the suit and everything. Impressive. Not to mention that even Carter shares some, future stuff to Tony, like the mentioning of the flux capacitor and such. Yeah, that was pretty funny. And yeah, with Steve Rogers, Scott Lang, and Bucky Barnes. Yes, can't forget to mention Bucky Barnes. And well, Scott Lang and Bucky Barnes once again being played / voiced by Paul Rudd and Sebastian Stan. Yeah, Tony. He informed Carter to regroup the Outlaws, and those being Steve Rogers, Scott Lang, and Bucky Barnes. And Steve Rogers, in this, being referred to as Rogershood? Really? Okay. Because they can help take the Time Stone that's in Thor's scepter, and in order for Tony to build this device, and, of course, to track and find the front runner and such, the forerunner. And yeah, Carter regrouping them, and once again, the interactions between Steve and Carter, are sweet and lovely, and the fact that this is not the exact same Steve that she knows from her world, still, it technically is still Steve Rogers. But then an ambush occurs where, Happy, order to hunt down and find Carter. And if you pay close attention, which I did, of course, I mean, how can you miss this? Where we can see with Sir Harold the Happy Hogan that his skin, it's kind of like turning purple, and oh boy, because he has this too. This variant of Happy has this as well, where, yes, in the Christmas episode, Happy got some of that, Hawk serum and such, and he became Happy the Freak Hogan. Yeah, this variant of Happy does have that, and almost like about to unleash at times, and when he does get furious. But yeah, and of course it's bound to happen, right? But not just yet, and yeah, that's pretty cool. And, also, Happy's getup as Sir Harold the Happy Hogan, and the fact that he's got a mustache, those, that was pretty funny. So again, they are ambushed, and a little battle that happens between the Outlaws and Carter against Hogan. I mean, Carter doesn't want to fight Hogan and the others because, she is on their side, but, the fact that they're blind by thinking that she, betrayed Queen Hela and so on. That's not the case. Then eventually, Carter surrenders herself, and yeah, she's taken to the dungeon and such. But of course, she finds a way to escape, even unleashing Bruce Banner. Yes, and Bruce Banner, whom appears in this episode, and once again, Mark Ruffalo voicing / playing Bruce Banner / the Hawk. And yeah, because unleashing the Hawk, we get to see that. And not to mention that Bruce is sporting long hair and a beard. And we see that in his Hulk form, yeah, with a beard and long hair. So now the Hulk is unleashed, and Carter, meets up with the Outlaws, Steve, Scott, and Bucky, and even when, say, Fury and Wanda step in to help them out, to take on Thor, and to take the Time Stone from his scepter, and Tony, of course, being there, and the battle that takes place, and even Wanda Merlin trying to hold off Thor to stop him while, what they're doing to get the device ready and such, and to locate the Forerunner. Yeah. And eventually, yeah, they find the Forerunner, and even when Thor realizes that he made a mistake framing Carter. Also, yes, because we get this, yeah, Happy the Freak Hogan is unleashed, and a little battle between Happy the Freak Hogan and the Hawk. It was bound to happen, right? Which was pretty awesome. Yeah, and the little interactions that Happy the Freak Hogan and Hawk have are pretty funny. And Happy the Freak Hogan sporting that mustache and such, that's funny. I mean, you just can't help but find that hilarious and funny. Because seeing the Hawk variants, sporting a beard or something is very interesting. I mean, not that it's really a laughing matter still, but in this, yeah. And the Forerunner turns out to be, well, Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers, from where, yeah, he was battling Thanos in Wakanda in the events of Infinity War. Yeah, he became the Forerunner because, he created a temporal anomaly while battling Thanos, because when he came face-to-face with Thanos, tried to take him on with those special shields from Wakanda he accidentally touched the Time Stone, and boom, the temporal anomaly happened. And, Carter, she makes a sacrifice. Well, basically, sacrificing everyone by returning Steve back to where he was, and, to take him back to his universe, preventing the incursion and such, and, yeah. And, again, causing everybody to be sacrificed, making the sacrifice for the others, and, yeah, all of them disappearing. And she's the only one that's left. And, right before the episode ends, she's at this, I want to say pub? Yeah. and she is encountered by, well, Strange Supreme. And that, of course, is a direct lead-up to the 9th and final episode of Season 2. Yeah, and even it shows to be continued. Yeah, so, Episode 8, What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. Again, that was another pretty interesting episode, and a good one for Season 2, and for that being the second to last episode, it was interesting because, to see which group of Avengers we see in the year 1602, and their look and style, and, with Captain Carter being in that world, and with what all goes on in this episode. It was really good, yeah. Yeah, just overall, Episode 8, What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602? Another good one. And I guess probably, maybe be another one of my favorite episodes for this season, yeah. Okay, so, last but not least, Episode 9. What if Strange Supreme intervened? Description / the story. Captain Carter discovers the greatest threat to all existence, maybe closer than she realizes. Okay, so, getting into Episode 9, well, and yeah, because where we last left off at the end of Episode 8, Strange Supreme recruits Captain Carter, and he shows her that he's been capturing universe killers to atone his sins. And by the way, because the Watcher does give us a recap on Strange Supreme, and yeah, because keep in mind, when Season 1 happened, Strange Supreme became... The reason why he's referred to as Strange Supreme is because, well, with what he was doing in order to try and save Christy from dying and to be with her and so on. Yeah, and if you've seen that episode and have seen Season 1, then you know. But yeah. But it's nice, just in case, with a little recap on that. But yeah. And then Strange Supreme wanting Captain Carter to help him to stop an escaped variant who made his way to a universe where apparently Hydra used the Tesseract. They succeeded by using the Tesseract to destroy the world. And, well, I mean, Carter, she doesn't really suspect anything, and neither do we at first, but yeah, Carter agrees and, begins to join with Strange Supreme and, yeah, to stop the escaped variant, as he explained to her. So when they make their way, well, because Carter finds herself, well, in a location where it's snowy, yeah, and she comes face-to-face with Kahori, yes, because as was shown in the episode that has her, Strange Supreme found and met Kahori, and, well, this is where we get to hear Kahori speak English, and Kahori, once again, being voiced by Devery Jacobs, yeah. So, Kahori basically tells Carter that she should not be following Strange Supreme. Strange Supreme is the bad guy, because apparently Strange Supreme capturing the universe killers, well, by feeding them to this contraption he has made called the Forge. And basically the Forge is something to help Strange Supreme to resurrect his universe. And yeah, and Carter, when realizing this, yes, and her teaming up with Kahorti, and it's really cool, like, the interactions between Kahorti and Captain Carter. And again, the fact we get to hear Kahorti speak English, that's great, yeah. So them teaming up, and even when, like, say, yeah, they confront Strange Supreme, and, well, even when, say, thanks to Carter and Kahorti, they free the prisoners that Strange had kept, and by unleashing them in order for both of them to escape, and, yeah. With what goes on with them trying to escape and whom they encounter, like, oh boy, because, like, at one point, they come face-to-face with zombies. Oh boy, because as we all know, in the first season we had an entire episode on zombies, and one of the zombies, well, happens to be the Scarlet Witch. Yeah, I mean, you could tell, of course, it's a zombie version of the Scarlet Witch. Duh. Yeah, them encountering the zombies. And, they're trying to take on the zombies, but, they really don't stand a chance between them. But that is until Hela steps in, and Hela, once again, being voiced by Cate Blanchett, and her making her entrance. Then Surtur shows up as well, and once again being voiced by Clancy Brown, and they recognize one another, and Hela now gaining control of the zombies, and they're now under her command, and having them attacks Surtur, and I mean, this does, and with that, it gives Kahorti and Captain Carter another opportunity to keep escaping and such. And another moment that happens, well, Carter and Kahorti, they do at first come face to face with Thanos, and he's got the Infinity Stones. But then, out of nowhere, Killmonger steps in, and he now gains control of the Infinity Stones. But with the aid of Kahorti and her powers, managing to separate Killmonger from the body armor he has with the Infinity Stones, and by placing him in this arena, this room where, all of the prisoners that Strange Supreme has kept, they're all fighting each other, and him in the middle of it. And by the way, because seeing all the other characters, and fighting and such, like Rocket Raccoon makes an appearance, that's nice to see. And I did see Strax, and even, one of the characters from the episode that centers on Kahorti is there too, and also Wenwu being there too. And a few others that, if you pay close attention, you might be able to recognize, like, oh, there's What's-Her-Face, and that's What's-Her-Face, battling and such, so now, and after easily taking care of Killmonger, thanks to Kahorti, well, now Captain Carter gains the Infinity Stones. That's pretty awesome, and, like, the armor that she has on, on her suit, which is really cool. And eventually, they find themselves in the room where the Forge is, and once again, coming face-to-face with Strange Supreme. And even when, like, say, Strange Supreme has all of his prisoners to fall into the Forge, but Kahorti, she does try to save them, but the fact that, Strange Supreme is, still trying to get them to fall and such, well, even when, say, all the prisoners, they lend their weapons to Carter and Kahorti, like, say, Thor's hammer, the 10 rings, Hela's helmet, everything that they need to take on and defeat Strange Supreme, and eventually, Kahorti does save all of them. I think, some of them did fall into the Forge, but not all of them, managing to send them back to where they belong, making portals for them, and because of the powers that she has. And with the ability to gain all of the weapons that they were lent, from, again, the 10 rings, Thor's hammer, Hela's helmet, everything, to take on Strange Supreme. And they're doing pretty good, but still, Strange Supreme being very powerful, even when at one point, Strange Supreme creates an illusion for Peggy Carter. She's back in the 1940s where, doing that, superhuman DNA test and such, and Steve Rogers being there, and Steve Rogers, in this, once again, being voiced by Josh Keaton. Even Dr. Erskine, him making an appearance in this episode, and once again, the Doctor being voiced by good old Stanley Tucci. And, of course, it doesn't take Carter that long to realize that this is all an illusion, and, it's one of Strange Supreme's tricks, and, Strange Supreme was in disguise as skinny Steve Rogers. So, that doesn't last long, and in the end, Strange Supreme is taken down. But, Captain Carter and Kahorti trying to convince Strange Supreme that, this is wrong, he shouldn't be doing this. and even when, say, Strange Supreme's demon version steps in, taking full control of him, and yeah, Demon Strange, we get to see Demon Strange in this, and Demon Strange taking on Captain Carter and Gahorty. But then, when it comes to, say, Strange Supreme, well, most notably Demon Strange, being thrown into the Forge, yeah, Strange Supreme sacrifices himself, taking Demon Strange with him. And yeah, and that's the end of both Demon and Supreme Strange. Yeah. And, well, then Carter finds herself not dead and is with the Watcher, and everything turned out pretty well, and Gahorty was sent back to her home, and the Watcher shows Captain Carter that, surprisingly, Strange Supreme succeeded bringing back to life his universe, and with that, Christine Palmer. However, Steven cannot be born in this universe. Yeah, so making the ultimate sacrifice, and, you know, in exchange, him not being born in the universe, and, you know, just overall, Christine Palmer is alive and well in this universe, yeah, where, yeah, the universe being Strange Supremes. Well, Carter is about to go back home, but she asks the Watcher to show her all of the multiverses, yeah, and, oh boy, because when it comes up to Season 3, oh yeah, look forward to that. But yeah, Episode 9, the 9th and final installment of Season 2 of What If. It was another really good episode from Season 2. What a heck of a way to end off this season, and, you know, with what happens, you know, the climax, and, you know, just like how it was, you know, at the end of Season 1, where, yeah, some of these characters get together, and with what they're up against, and the Watcher being there, most notably, just, yeah, it was really good. And, you know, with what goes on with each of these characters, from most notably Captain Carter and Supreme Strange, them coming together, Gahorty being there, and what they're up against, you know, they're going up against Supreme Strange, and in the end, Supreme Strange is redeemed, and, you know, unblind by what he's been doing, but still, the fact that he managed to succeed, bringing back to life the universe that he comes from, and with it, Christine Palmer, really good. Seeing all the characters here and there, you know, from Hela, Surtur, the zombies, just, yeah. Just everything about Episode 9 overall was really good. Again, another great season finale to, well, What If, yeah. So yeah, and Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If was another great season. Everything from beginning to end. The 9 episodes and their storylines. Some new characters that we see in What If and what goes on with them. Different paths that they take. And, of course, with the Watcher being present. And, yeah, the situations that happen with these characters. Most notably Captain Carter being a very prime staple for What If. And also Supreme Strange, of course. Just, yeah. But most notably Captain Carter. Yeah. This season had some really good episodes, and to recap, because, yeah, some of my favorites would have to be, say, yeah, Episode 2, Episode 5, and Episode 8. Yeah, they were some of my favorite episodes. But, you know, the entire season, all 9 episodes, they were really good. But I'm just saying, some of my favorites, and that I just mentioned, just, yeah. But overall, Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If was another good season, and I'm giving Season 2 of What If, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Season 2 of What If. And what about you guys? What did you think of Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If? Is Season 2 one of your favorite seasons of What If? Any of you that obviously have seen the first season and have, I'm sure by now, have seen Season 3. And which were some of your favorite episodes of Season 2? And the direction that Season 2 was taking. New faces that we see. Most notably, you know, Komorti, yeah. I think I did mispronounce her name a little bit. You know who I'm talking about, yeah. To see her make her debut in the MCU, but in something animation, and with how the character is done in this, just, yeah. And, of course, the animation, you know, being fantastic, and the funny and emotional moments here and there. And, yeah, what were some of your favorite moments to come from this season? And just, yeah, overall, what do you think of Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If, and with what I've had to say, my review, and, yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Season 2 of Marvel Studios' What If. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. Take care, and until Season 3, the third and final season of What If. Yeah, still wrong. Stay tuned for that, and for what I'll be reviewing next in the realm of the MCU on Disney+, because, yeah, after Season 2, well, then came Echo. That will be next, but yeah. But again, overall, until Season 3, yeah. Peace out, and Avengers, assemble.